Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the new NHTSA School Bus Driver in-Service Curriculum. I'm NAPT's Executive Director, Mike Martin, and I am the technical difficulty that you just experienced. And my profound apologies to all of you for the delay in getting started today. Thank you for those of you who have rejoined us, and thank you especially for your patience. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a couple of housekeeping details. First, you're listening today using your computer speaker system by default. If you would prefer to listen in over the phone, just select telephone or audio in the pane on the right-hand side of your screen, and then the dial-in information will be displayed. Secondly, you are all muted, which means that you can talk to us, you can yell at us right now, but we can't hear you. I apologize again for the technical difficulties we had today, but you will have the opportunity to submit questions and or comments during the presentation by typing them into the questions pane of the control panel on the right-hand side of your computer screen. You may submit your questions at any time during the presentation. We will monitor your questions in the questions pane and do our best to answer as many of them as possible during the Q&A session with our presenter at the end of this presentation. Now, I'm pleased to introduce to you, without further ado, today's speaker. Kristen Rosenthal has an extensive background in road safety. She has a master's degree in health education and has significant experience leading global and national grassroots initiatives to keep vulnerable road users safe on the road. She began her career working in Detroit at Children's Hospital of Michigan, where she coordinated road safety and general injury prevention education for caregivers, patients, and schools across the area. Kristen worked for the last 9 years at Safe Kids Worldwide, serving as the Senior Program Manager for Domestic Road Safety. She now serves as a Highway Safety Specialist at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, managing many road safety risk areas, including school transportation. Kristen, thank you very much for your patience, and thank you for joining us today. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to Kristen Rosenthal.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mike, and thank you for the introduction, and thank you and your whole team for making this happen when, for a minute, we thought it wasn't going to happen earlier. So hi, everyone. I am Kristen Rosenthal, and I am a Highway Safety Specialist at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Next slide, please. So for those of you who aren't familiar with NHTSA, NHTSA is part of the U.S. Department of Transportation, and we focus mostly on behavior of road users, programming and research to keep everyone safe on the road. And that's pretty much NHTSA's mission, is to save lives, prevent injuries, and reduce economic costs due to road traffic crashes through education, research, safety standards, and enforcement activity. Next slide. So a little bit in what we do in our role as highway safety specialists is that we work with a really broad audience, and we work with the entire United States. So we try to provide that leadership and, answer those questions and, steer people in the right direction of the answer to that question if, we don't have it ourselves. And then we provide guidance over many different local entities, states, and provide that, for the state highway safety offices, as well as, they feed it then down to their local stakeholders. We provide technical assistance. So this webinar is a perfect example of technical assistance that we are happy to provide when we launch a new program or product, just to make sure that everyone who's using it knows how to use it, and to make it as easy as possible. We provide education to the motoring public, to other NGOs or organizations, or NAPT, for example. And then all of our programming and education is all backed by research. So to complement our programs department, which I am in, we have our whole research department that conducts the studies and the surveys and looks at trends and data. And then we take that and create projects such as this one to disseminate out. Next slide, please. So ways that NHTSA approaches, trying to keep everyone safe on the roads is we want to prevent bad behavior, yes, but we also want to educate and encourage good behavior, through the means of social media, through our website, through different curriculums and projects to try to increase safe behavior. And as educators, most of us, we know that behavior is the hardest part of public health, is to get people to change for the better. And so we want to protect those vulnerable road users who are, at more of a risk for whatever reason, if they're children, if they're elderly, if they're, a pedestrian or a bicyclist. We want to protect those people, and that's within our division of safety countermeasures. And then we want to leverage public health and public safety, and we align with the CDC and we align with FEMA, especially during times like this. We have people in our department who are sitting, on boards with FEMA and trying to, have an impact on like EMS drivers and police that are out there keeping the public safe every day, which is really important. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, I am in the Office of Safety Countermeasures, which is in the Office of Safety Programs. And so these are the categories that we cover. So pedestrian safety, bicyclist safety, older driver safety, motorcycle safety, and helmet use, and then pupil transportation safety. And that's what we're here to talk about today. But I also want to point out that in all of these specific program areas, there's overlap. So elderly drivers or the aging road users are pedestrians. A child who's walking to a school bus is a pedestrian. We want to make sure that they get to and from that school bus safely. Motorcyclist safety. There is a huge higher rate of fatality, among motorcycle users. And, those people can be older drivers who, they had a long career, they rode a bike, in their early 20s, now they're retired and pick it back up. So there is a lot of overlap between what we do and all the highway safety specialists within the Office of Safety Countermeasures. Next slide. So what we're here to talk about today is the school bus driver in service curriculum. This training was actually first launched more than 30 years ago and has been updated throughout time due to policy change, technology, such as this is the most technical advanced version that we have. It now has a new content and a new structure. And when I say that, we've updated the content from the previous version that some of you or most of you are probably pretty aware of that launched in 2012. And then the new structure, we put this completely online. And so it is easy for the user to go in, register, and complete a module or complete a lesson. And they don't have to sit there for 6 hours completing the whole course at once, is what we've had to do in the past with this type of course. So we're really excited about that. It can be done at the user's own pace, depending on their schedule. It is now mobile accessible. So this training can be done on an Apple, Galaxy, an Android, all compatible with this. And it's actually really easy to use. It's actually a little bit easier to use, I think, than the online version. But it's completely up to you or your drivers which version they pick. And then we have track training. And I'm going to talk about this more in the next slide. Thank you. So this is our track or our road to save pupil transportation. And so I know it may be small on your screen, but we have a module on driver attitude, which is the impact of your attitude and how to manage stress. And then you go further down the road and we have vehicle training. So it's the procedures for handling a school bus to include adjusting mirrors, backing up, making turns, and slowing down. Highway rail grade crossing safety. So how to safely cross at a highway rail grade crossing. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. A grade crossing is when it's level with the road and it has the arms that go up and down. Some don't have those arms that go up and down. So it takes more just being aware of your surroundings during that time. We move on to adverse weather conditions. So how do I anticipate and handle adverse weather conditions while driving a school bus? Knowing your route, potential driving hazards on both familiar and unfamiliar routes and how to handle them. We have student management, so reasonable standards for student behavior on the school bus to enhance safety. Loading and unloading, so proper procedures for loading and unloading students. There's a module on transporting students with special needs. So the responsibilities of the school bus driver when transporting those who require a higher level of attention and some more hands-on from the driver themselves. We have a section that we've added back in that was not in the last version, which is the transporting of infants and toddlers. So this module just refers to children under the age of 5 who are in preschool, and it talks about the use of child safety restraint systems for transporting these preschool age children. And then we have emergency evacuation, when to evacuate a school bus and the proper procedures for conducting an evacuation. And that's it. So there's 10 modules, and you don't have to start with number 1, which is driver attitude. You can start with whichever you want. And I'll talk a little bit more about how to get into the system and how to select which modules or the course that you want to start with. So next slide, please. So of all the topics for each of the modules that I just mentioned, there are several lessons within each module that make up the module itself. And so you can see that the module on driver attitude only has 2 lessons in it. So that's a much quicker module to complete. It could be done in probably 15 minutes. But then there's other modules that take much longer. And the beauty of this is that if you start with the module on vehicle training and you get to lesson 2.3 and you get called out of the office, you have something to do at home, it saves your point up to there. So you will not have to go back and redo any of those lessons. It saves it as you go. And so you just have to submit each lesson for it to be saved. The entire training takes about 6 hours, and I know that's a long time. So we thought that being able to, having it be used at, the user's own pace would be really valuable and would help more people to start and complete the training instead of just start and then get overwhelmed or get busy and not wanting to go back and start over, just kind of push it aside. So next slide, please. So how do you register for this training? So there's a link. It is in step 1. I'm sure most of you have it in an email. I'm going to be giving NAPT a PDF version of this presentation, and it is in there as well. I've sent an email to many people, but if you don't have it, we can send it out after the webinar. And so you just go in there and you create an account. And so one thing that's really important is if you or one of your drivers already has a TSI account, which is the training and education arm of USDOT, they will have to create a new account that is just for this training. So when you click on this link, you can't use a previous TSI login. It has to be a new login. And then step 2, you'll have 2 choices. And so you can see to the right, you can register for the full course, or you can register for the individual module. And so if you are the director of student transportation for your area, and you just want your drivers to complete, say, module 4, 5, and 6, then they can go in and just register for those modules 4, 5, and 6, and they will get a completion for those. Or you can say, I want you to do the full course. I know that a lot of transportation agencies have a 6-hour in-service that their drivers have to do every year. And so this is the perfect fit for a 6-hour training. And then you can view the details in each of the trainings. I have slides on each of these. And then you click launch and you're into the training. Next slide. So once you are in and registered and you have selected either the course or just the module, you'll see a screen like this one. And you have to click the launch button to activate that specific lesson. If you click on the lesson name, it will bring up more of a transcript for that lesson. So you have to make sure to hit launch. And then you just complete the lesson, and then you could launch the next one. Next slide, please. So this is the next screen you'll see after you launch the lesson. And so it'll be an introduction page. You can read it. It kind of tells you what the lesson is about and expectations. And then at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a click here, or like to move on. And so you have to click there, and then it'll take you to the first slide of that lesson. Next slide. So when you're going through each of the lessons, you'll see some screens that have some elements that you have to interact with. And they could appear such as, you know, if you see on the right, action 1, 2, 3, 4, and to complete the lesson, you have to actually click on each of those. This is a screenshot, but in the actual training, those will be kind of flashing, so they stick out. And they appear in most modules and several of the lessons. And then you'll see also in within the training PDFs that are either like a job aid or just more research or reference. And you have to also click on that PDF and download it, and then you'll be able to move on. So those are a few of the errors that we've been seeing, that people don't know that they have to click on the interactive elements before they can move on. Next slide. So once you complete the lesson, you'll have a knowledge check that pops up, and then you just do the knowledge check, and then you'll have completed that lesson. So lesson 1.1, or for this one, it's 3.2, and then you could move on to the next. Next screen. So this is also a big one. as you're going through and working on each of the lessons within each of the modules, you will know it's complete when you see that full orange circle with the check mark in it. If you've only opened the lesson and have not completed it for whatever reason, maybe it's you missed some of those interactive tools, or maybe you didn't complete the lesson before you had to close out, you'll see like a circle, like semicircle, that has not been completed yet. So you'll know. So if you're saying that I haven't completed a module, go back and make sure that each of those orange circles and check marks are there for each of the lessons throughout the module. Next slide. And this is what it'll look like after you have completed all of the lessons, and you'll have to complete all the lessons before you can move on to the assessment at the end. And so you'll see this screen right here. So you have to complete all of these lessons, and then the launch button for the assessment will appear. So the assessment won't be available for the user until they have completed each of those specific lessons. Next slide, please. So this is an example of one of the assessments after it's been launched. So it'll give you some instructions on how, to complete the assessment itself. And then you'll see at the bottom, it says start quiz. And so you want to click on start quiz in order to progress. Next slide, please. And then to help monitor your progress on each module or the course, you can use the transcript section to see which modules are completed or in progress. So this button is also on the main page of the training. And so you just click on transcript, and then you'll be able to see, I highlighted this one, it says it's in progress. So that module has not been completed yet. So you have to complete it. And so if you have any questions of what you haven't done yet, then you can look in your transcript, and it'll help to identify what you need to go back and complete. Next slide, please. And then after you have gone through all of those steps and completed all of the modules, congratulations, you have completed the course. And you'll receive an email that looks similar to the one, or exactly like the one that I have a screenshot on. And this link will take you to your certificate of completion. And so you can go in there, or you could go, if you don't get this email, or for some reason you lost it, you accidentally deleted it, you can sign into your account, and then you can access it by signing or clicking on transcript when you're signed in and changing the active button on the upper left part of your transcript to complete it. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the certificate that the user will receive at the end. And this is if they do the course module by module. This isn't if they do the whole course. So as the transportation director or the user, you'll be able to see that Pat Smith completed module 1 of the training. And so they'll get those individual certificates for each of the modules they finish if they did not select to complete the whole course. Next slide. If the user decides to do the whole course, this is the certificate that the user will get at the end. Can you go back? Thank you. So this, you can see that Pat Smith has completed the school bus driver in service curriculum. So this would mean it's the full 6-hour training. So if one of your drivers brings this to you, that indicates that they have completed 6 hours of training and did the entire course. Next slide. So hopefully they'll be able to have access to this training through the NHTSA website in the upcoming weeks. It is with our communications department to get it uploaded. But right now you can use that link that is provided. But you can also go on to NHTSA's website to a whole plethora of different types of resources. So we have fact sheets and research. You can access the old trainings, anything you need that's pupil transportation that NHTSA has will be located on the school bus safety page. And you just go to NHTSA.gov, and then from there you can go to road safety, and under road safety, you click on school bus safety. And this will also be in the PDF that we send out, so you don't have to remember these links. Next slide. And then another resource that is open for anyone is traffic safety marketing. So in this site, it has a separate link, which is trafficsafetymarketing.gov. You can go in and choose. There are several different topics, and school bus safety is one of those. And in there, we have different infographics you can use and things like this. And here's some examples that you can take and you can use in newsletters or emails or anything, that's related, that's relevant to, pupil transportation. And there's some great resources in there. And I'm hoping over the next year or so, we'll be able to update a lot of the materials and also be able to add in new options and new resources for you to be able to use. Next slide. So I'll take questions in a minute. I'm almost done, but if you'll go to the next slide. This is your go-to man. So if you have any technical issues that you can email Rocky directly, and his email address will be in the PDF. And he is amazing. He's super responsive, and he will walk you through what the issue is. And so I've been talking to him. So there's been a lot of walking through this training was to try and alleviate a lot of those issues that users have been having. So we'll keep updating it as we go. But Rocky is the go-to person for any technical issues related to the training. And that is the updated school bus driver in service curriculum. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Kristen, first and foremost, thank you, not only to you, but to your coworkers as well for this amazing work. I've been around a long time, and I remember when this was the School Bus Driver in Service Safety Series, and to show you how old I am, we didn't just have DVDs, we had VHS tapes, okay? And our version of Zoom was to throw these at people. That was what we called Zoom back in the day. So this is remarkable. It's amazing, and I want to remind and emphasize to everyone: this is free. This is something that Kristen
Totally free. Yes.
and her coworkers have worked on together, and this is free to all of you. So first of all, thank you very much for that work, and secondly, thank you again for being so patient, so professional, so kind, and so generous with your time today. We really appreciate it. There are a couple of questions if you have a minute to go through them. The first one is Michelle would like to know, is there a way to monitor how long it's actually taking drivers to do this in-service training?
I will have to actually check with Rocky at TSI to see how long each training or each module is taking, but the difficulty with that will be is that they can do it at their own pace. So if they click on lesson 1.1 and then don't move on to lesson 1.2, I mean, is it going to track that whole couple days in between? So I'm not sure if it actually tracks the time. We have estimated times for each of the modules, and some of them, like I said, are 20 minutes and some are more than an hour, but together it's about 6 hours. And the timing of each, the estimated timing of each module will be in the PDF. I just did not list them for this presentation.
Super. Okay, terrific. Thank you. I've got another question from a transportation director who wants to know, can I assign these modules to one of my staff people with a due date?
You can. And so you can, and when someone registers, there is a screen that they put in their manager's name. And so if you have, 20 people who report to you, and they use your name, and then they have to select to share their transcript with their manager, you can email either myself or probably better off Rocky, and they can pull all of the people who have done the training who have put your name as the manager. And that's to get their transcripts if you want to keep record of those.
Got it. Super. And related question to that, can the certificates be mailed to the supervisor, or do they go to the person who's completed the training?
I guess both. So it goes to the person who's completed the training, but then also, when the manager requests the transcripts for, their employees, there'll be access to that certificate at that point as well.
Got it. Okay. Several kind of repeat questions. One here though that I think is kind of unique. This can obviously be done on a smartphone, a tablet, laptop, any different ways. Is there any way that can it be printed out and done in hard copy in any way, shape, or form? Or is it all online in some way, shape, or form?
This version right now, it's all online. We are looking in to be able to download and print it, but how it is designed, it kind of puts some issues with doing that. My recommendation, if you have someone, and I've talked to many people, in rural areas or people who, don't have access to internet or email, the older curriculum from 2012 is still able to be downloaded from NHTSA's website. And so you can go on and use that older version. It just doesn't have the toddlers and preschoolers in there, but I mean, the content is mostly the same. We did make some updates, but I think that training would be the best, plan B if someone doesn't have access to internet or those types of things.
Super. Got it. Okay, great. Thank you. Another question, and this is pretty typical of the folks in our industry, right? If you take a course and complete it, can you go back and do it again? In other words, I had so much fun, I want to do this a second time.
I believe you would have to re-register for the program using a different email address, and then you'd be able to access it. I think once it's completed, I'm not sure if you can actually go back and click on that lesson again. I can't check right now because I have the webinar up, but I can check on that as when we get off, and then I can put that in the email I'm going to send to Mike and his team to distribute after.
The follow-up. Okay, super.
Yeah.
You're nice. Thank you. Okay, and I know you've been incredibly generous and gracious with your time. There are lots and lots of thank yous. Congratulations. We appreciate it. People are just loving this, Chris and I. So again, thank you so much. Let me see if I can ask you one more question for you from folks.
Sure.
This one says, is there a way for the supervisor who works for the school system to actually be able to utilize the certificates in any way other than to track? Is there any thought about what else they might be able to do with those?
I mean, I think that really varies district to district. I mean, if I'm not sure like what, regulations or laws there are, every state has different rules for drivers. So I really think it's up to you to kind of determine what you do with those certificates.
Okay, great, super. Thank you again. And again, thank you very much, Kristen, for your time today, for your expertise, for your hard work, and like I said, especially for your grace and your patience. We really appreciate that. That was an unusual situation for all of us there.
Yes, but it worked out. It's all
Thank
good.
you.
I'm just thank you for having me and hosting this, and allowing NHTSA to, let all your members know about this new free training that is out there. And just so everyone knows, I love feedback. So if you're doing the training, and you see something or you have questions, or please feel free to email me. I'm not a bus driver, I'm not a director of transportation. So if there's little nuances in there, please feel free to email me. This was completed with a group of SMEs. So hopefully everything's right, but just don't hesitate to reach out. I'm very accessible.
Right, super. Thank you. Clearly, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today. It's our goal to provide timely educational information and programs, and we hope you enjoyed today's webinar. It has been recorded and will be provided via email shortly after the conclusion of this webinar. For additional information about other programs that we offer at NAPT, please feel free to visit our website at napt.org and click on the events calendar. So again, Kristen Rosenthal, thank you very much for joining us today. To all of you who dialed in today, thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Have a good afternoon. Thank you.